Go.
Alright, so to start our lesson today, I was going to give everybody an index card, but I don't have any, so if everybody could take out a piece of paper. And I'll use those.
You got a piece of paper?
Yeah.
Getting a piece of paper now.
Alright, and then on it, I want you to think about and write down 3 things you think makes an effective teacher. So we're pretty much going to go over the same thing that.
Alright, this is a summative assessment of my class.
Click start slideshow.
One of them should be, what I just talked about.
And then when you're done, I'm going to have everybody come up here one at a time and write down one of the things that they wrote, the most important, and then explain to everybody why you think that should be on there.
Oh, she's gonna take mine. Better not start with an R.
Boom. Oh, it does right now. So you spell it.
Creatively written. Good job.
Wow, yes.
Are you?
I am.
Me too.
You're a lefty?
Uh-huh.
It's
First
very
thing everybody
nice.
always
We've had this discussion, I think.
Probably. Alright, so Tuli, why do you think that one's important?
I don't know. I mean, if I were to say anything about it.
It'd probably take you about 30 minutes.
It would take about 30 minutes, maybe 32. 32.
Depending on if the camera's working.
Okay. But, right? Lucky, that was like 3-4 minutes. Anyway, so I think that research-based instruction can help a teacher become effective because it's teachers learning from other teachers to help their students.
Alright, and then Jack, creativity.
Creativity is awesome. I think it's important as teachers that we keep our kids on their toes, but also really helping them engage and drawn into what we're teaching. So it was Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I mean, it's not very creative when we write on the board. Anyone? But creativity.
Ferris Bueller in that movie was creative in how he learned things because he went out to the places and did it.
Exactly. So it's creative. So creativity is good. Just to draw in more, or learn more things, and then create more things.
Alright, and then differentiate.
Differentiate. Yeah, I mean, without differentiating, you're going to lose the outer spectrums of your students that you're teaching because the ones that are special needs are going to be lost all the time, and the ones that are accelerated, they're going to be bored all the time because you're just swinging straight for the middle only, generally. So when you differentiate, you're an effective teacher for all of your students, not just the select few.
Exactly. Okay, yeah, these are all really good ideas. And as we go through the PowerPoint, just keep in mind and see how the ideas that I had in this article kind of relate to the ones that you guys wrote down. So, as you probably guessed, we're talking about effective teaching today. And by the end of this lesson, the outcomes are you'll be able to give examples of good classroom management. You'll understand the importance to understand why it's important to have positive expectations, and you will understand how to check for lesson mastery. Alright, so yeah, just keep in mind during this lesson, think of ways that you can, like what exactly you can do specifically to implement these techniques into your future classroom. Alright, so, let's see. So those are the outcomes, just written in a different way, probably more specific. Alright, so what can you do to become an effective teacher? Positive expectations. So, the first thing that's very important to becoming an effective teacher is to keep positive expectations for all your students. It's important that it says in the first one and the second and the third, to not pick favorites. There's definitely going to be some kids in your class, I'm sure Tuli noticed that you don't like as much, who are more disruptive than others.
They need the most. Yes.
Yeah, they need the more. Yeah, they need the most. Because you don't know what's going on at home, and it could be the classroom could be their safe haven. So you need to make sure that your expectations for everybody are the same. And you don't have you aren't biased. So specifically, though, positive expectations. What that means is that you, as a teacher, believe in the learner and that the learner can learn. You don't confuse it with having high standards, which is like, for example, I believe that you specifically can read to this level. That's not what it is. It's more of just as a whole, really basic. I believe in you, and I believe that you can do great things. I believe that you can learn. So what do you guys think? Does that make sense? Like, do you understand what the difference between high expectations and positive expectations are? High standards and positive
I
expectations.
think high expectations are you're wanting every student to get to a certain level, whereas positive expectations might be wanting every student to improve themselves. And
Yeah.
so,
It's
although
not
they're not-
specific.
yeah, they're all not going to get to the same level,
Yeah.
but they're going to improve themselves.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Perfect. All right. Okay. So the second one is classroom management. So classroom management consists of practices and procedures that the teacher uses to maintain an environment in which instruction and learning can occur. So, yeah, practices and procedures the teacher uses to create an environment to learn in. However, it does not mean discipline. So, I know some teachers, their classroom management is based off of, okay, so if the student does this and this wrong, then this is going to be their punishment, so don't do this. Or if you guys are too loud, I'm going to take this away from you. And I feel like that could have an adverse reaction because they might think of you as the enemy, or your relationship might be based off of fear, when it shouldn't. It should be based off of they feel safe in your classroom. So more so, classroom management is an environment, creating a good environment where learning can take place and that everything is organized. Because if you do create that good environment, you probably won't need to discipline as much. There's definitely instances when you'll have to do something, but it definitely will cut down if you create that environment to begin with. That's good for the kids to learn in. Yes?
I think too, what helped a lot in my classroom with classroom management is that there was routine.
Mm-hmm.
So if students know, for example, if there's a morning routine that they come in, they put their bags away, first thing that comes out is homework to turn in. If they know that those things happen and you as a teacher are consistent with that, then I think students, will kind of get the idea, become more self-directed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so actually I have those, I made those for you to write notes on, but I forgot to get them. Sorry. Alright, so I actually, with exactly what you said, I have something to read, just something to think about. So this is called Students Work Without the Teacher Present, and it's a letter written by a high school teacher, I guess. So it says, Dear Dr. Wong, in my 23 years in the classroom, I always felt that one of my greatest strengths is in the area of classroom management. To illustrate, I called the administration one evening to inform them that I was ill and would not be present the next day. The following morning, my students were standing in the hall outside my room when the first bell rang. The other teacher in the department opened my door and let the students in. As the day progressed, the classes came and went. In the afternoon, a counselor came looking for me. My students said that they had not seen me all day and went back to business as usual. My standing joke with the administration is that if I could get my students to keep quiet about my absence, I could stay home all week and maybe even take some trip to the South Sea Island. In closing, I have not had a serious discipline problem in over 15 years, and my day is free to spend however I wish at 3:15 p.m. Procedures work. So exactly with what Julie said, this teacher clearly had, a pretty good set schedule. Obviously not everything every day is going to be the exact same because you don't want to establish like something that's going to become boring. But if students know what they're supposed to be doing at what time of the day, then they'll be able to get their work done, and they probably won't forget to do things. They probably won't forget their homework because they're used to, this is exactly what I have to do. And then there won't be as much of a discipline problem because it's not something like they don't feel like they have all this free time, and they know that you aren't like done teaching the lesson and there's all this downtime. So you just want to make sure that you stay in control as the teacher and make them feel like you are the leader, and they respect you, but not so much as fear me. So I have a video that I'm going to show. I can't put it up on the screen. I can try to find it on the screen.
Routine was a lifesaver. Creating a
What is
Right, for 5 minutes.
What?
I still remember routines that I had in elementary school.
Really?
Yeah.
I remember certain things that we would do every day, but I can't remember what order it was. So this is top 10 proven classroom management tips for teachers. So keep in mind there are like 1 or 2 in here that are about discipline, because obviously you will need something in the case of somebody kind of out of control. But notice that it's not all based around fear and kind of not threatening the kids into doing something, but kind of.
classroom management? Classroom management is a term used by teachers to describe the process of ensuring that classroom lessons run smoothly despite disruptive behavior by students. Number 1 of the top 10 classroom management tips is start the year tough. Many teachers make the mistake of starting the year with a poor discipline plan or without any classroom management plan at all. It is much easier to start tough and then lighten up than to start light and discipline more. At the beginning of the year, students quickly assess the situation and realize what they will be allowed to get away with. Starting the year tough will give you control and flexibility. Number 2, be fair to all students. Students are the first to recognize a teacher's favorites or biases. This is dangerous because it could lead to a disruption if they sense a teacher has favorites. Treat all without partiality and make sure that all are included and engaged in class material. Number 3, be prepared for disruption and don't let them faze you. Students often amplify their teacher's reaction to disruption. Be ready for them and be ready to calmly and quickly pick up where you left off. Having a joke or interesting comment ready to bring attention back to you will allow the transition to be seamless. Number 4, instill high expectations. Expect that your students will behave, not that they will disrupt. Reinforce this with the way you speak to your students. When you begin the day, tell your students your expectations for the day, and they will have the goals ingrained in their head and will be less likely to cause trouble. Number 5, incentivize good behavior. Motivating students through rewards like no homework, watching a video, ice cream, or free activity time can help students by giving them a goal to look forward to. This can also help students hold each other accountable to class goals and stigmatize negative behavior. Number 6, overplan. Make sure you have plenty of activities to cover classroom time. It is wise to have several go-to activities to do if and when your lessons finish early. It is sometimes the point of no return when students realize they are done with planned activities. Number 7, have a clearly expressed disciplinary plan with consequences. Make sure students know the disciplinary ladder well. Any hint of ambiguity can leave a loophole for excuses, and students are great at making excuses. Warn students when they are close to breaking a rule so there will be no ambiguity when that line is crossed. If you constantly raise your voice to get the attention of the class, consider investing in a classroom amplification system which can save your voice by projecting it. The iPod portable PA system is a great system for classrooms because it features an iPod DAC that's a teacher that can connect positively with their students will make students behave and easier to manage because students will regard their teacher much like a friend. Using positive reinforcement to build a positive reputation for the child gives them confidence that their teacher believes in them and will make it harder for them to disappoint the teacher with bad behavior or work ethic. Be careful about confrontation. Confrontation does not need to humiliate nor does it need to be done in front of others. A bad confrontation situation could turn a teacher into an enemy in the eyes of the student. This will only amplify bad behavior. Number 10, be patient and keep practicing. Don't worry if things don't go well right away. Controlling your classroom is learnable, but will always be a challenge with some students. No matter where you teach, it is best to expect the unexpected and be ready for adversity. For more information on classroom discipline, classroom amplification.
All right, so what do you guys think is the most important one of those things? What's the
I
important example?
really liked Be Tough.
Why?
I think I remember starting out at Boys and Girls Club, where I worked a little bit with middle school students. When I first got there, I remember I was pretty stern and strict, and I think because of that, I was able to have a stronger influence on order with the students. And so for me, it really helped me out, and I can just see that being amplified as a classroom teacher in high school, that you'll be able to, I don't know, you're going to have students, and it's much better, like I said, to be strong now, whereas later on, you can lighten up and have a good class, but to really start out, hey, this is how we do things, let's get it done. There's no time for all this joking around. And then later on, have some.
Yeah, definitely.
I like that one too because I had an earth science teacher who also had my sister before me, so it's pretty funny because my last name is so uncommon. He's like, oh, I never met a pen around I didn't like. There's only one of us, the one other of us in all of Orange County, so good job. But yeah, he was pretty strict the first couple days in his class, which was cool because then it kind of set the tone. 2 things that were really important in his class you could not do, and this is in like, I was in 11th grade or even maybe a senior, I don't know. You couldn't touch your face a lot, like he didn't like you to like, it just was one of his pet peeves. And so he would like, hey, you gotta stay 5 minutes after class now because, you know, you were like really getting into your face. And I was like, holy cow, that's crazy. But I mean, it made people understand that when what he says he means, you know,
Yeah.
which is kind of nice. And then the second thing, which is something I intend to use in all my classes is, you know, when you say I don't know, what I hear is I don't care.
Yeah.
And so, you know, when you're telling me you don't know something, you're not willing to try and figure it out, what are you doing in my class? Like,
Yeah.
you're just
At
sitting
least
there.
guess.
Yeah, you're not, you just don't care. And this is, you know, that reflects poorly on me as a teacher because I'm trying to help you understand why this is important in your life. So, you know, I want you to care. And if you don't know, just guess or tell me why you don't know or whatever. And then people that, anytime someone said I don't know, he's like, you got on people about that.
Do you want to add anything, Julie?
Yeah, so I like the idea of staying tough at the beginning of the year because it was funny because that's how I was when I was in my classroom. As soon as I got there, I was like, this is what's going to happen. This is what, you know, this is routine and whatever. And it's funny because towards the end of the year, some of the teachers were like, I started letting up. Like I wasn't as serious, and you know, teachers would walk by my class and they like peek in to see if this class was in there because they were so surprised
How quiet they
at
were.
how quiet and how well they were working. And so I think once you instill that at the beginning of the year, towards the end of the year, your students will get it.
Mhm.
You know, and towards the end of the year, like I mean, like there were those few students, you know, who were just defiant, or you know, those situations where behavior will get out of hand, maybe even just due to them being so excited about something. You know,
Yeah.
even they can get a little rowdy because of it. But I think once you instill, you know, at some point in time, at least in my experience, that you know your students will see that it's not that you're trying to be mean.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, and then it also helps with the self-directing because then they can help their peers. You know, if they're doing something that they're not supposed to do, then they're gonna say, hey,
Don't do that.
you know, I don't wanna stay in a minute for recess, or I don't
Yeah.
want you to get in trouble, or
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I don't want us, you know,
Yeah.
so that was really nice.
Yeah, yeah, those are good comments. I think that, you know, it's important to make sure that you start out the year strong because it's not even a discipline thing, it's they respect you, they learn very quickly, you know, I'm a student in here and I'm a child and I need to respect my teacher. But as well as, you know, even when you do start to light up and it does start to become more fun, they remember, you know, she's fun, but she definitely has a serious side and it's not all jokes and games. So they know, you know, if you start to say like, hey, you know, we need to quiet down, they're like, okay, you know, we've seen how she, you know, gets when she's more tough and they want to stay away from that. So I think that was, you know, that was a really important one. And then the other one I liked that stuck out to me was not only being patient, but if somebody is, you know, acting up, I feel like one of the, I mean, not worst things you could do, but like, I don't like the idea of, I always hated it, like I hated getting yelled at by teachers.
Sure that.
You know, it was just, for me, it was really embarrassing. I just had that personality. So I think there's certain students that's one of their like things is they do not like being yelled at. So yelling at a student in front of the class or like calling them out can really like affect them and make them think you hate them even though you don't. So I think it's important that in order to, you know, keep the environment good for everybody and keep it, you know, a happy environment, if somebody is doing something, don't discipline them in front of the entire class, you know, pull them aside and talk to them. Because that keeps, you know, the kind of feeling in the classroom more positive than negative, because then they're scared that you're going to call them, you know.
Well, then, yeah, I mean, then it's like, you know, you're at the dinner table and dad just hauled off and smacked mom, and everybody in the class is like, well, like, what do we, like,
Yeah, it's like, how do we react? You know?
Yeah, I mean, they gotta deal with that emotional situation before you even get to start teaching.
Yeah, exactly. And so then they're kind of just on edge, and the tension in the room is just kind of weird. So I think, you know, being patient is a really hard, good one, but also making sure that you keep the, you know, environment and the feeling in the classroom a happy, like I love my job and I love you guys, not like I want the best for you. So as long as you get, like, I mean, it doesn't have to be like everything is just, nothing's taken seriously, but I want the best for you kind of feeling. All right, so the last one that we're going to talk about is lesson mastery. Okay, so mastery refers to how well a student can demonstrate that a concept has been comprehended or performed at a skill level of proficiency as determined by the teacher. So this isn't so much like how are we gonna like design the lesson, which is what I thought at first when I was like reading through this article, but it's, you know, kind of checking, it's more of assessment, like checking to make sure that your students are comprehending what you're teaching them. So to teach for mastery, a teacher must know how to design lessons in which a student will be able to learn a concept or skill to a goal or standard and know how to deliver the instruction to teach the goal or standard, and they need to know how to assess and provide corrective action for learning so the student can master the concept or skill. So does this sound familiar to everybody? I mean, I'm assuming, has anybody taken the assessment class yet? No, okay, so this is pretty much, the assessment class is you're only writing like lesson plans and tests for everything. So, like when you take that, it'll go over this more.
So basically, it looks like the lesson mastery is really like the student mastering the lesson
Yeah.
and how you can help them to
Yeah.
master that lesson.
How you can help them, how you can check that they're understanding, so then you can make sure you're
Yeah.
doing something else.
It's like 10 lights on a thing, and each of them have to go green. And if any of them are red, it's like, okay, I gotta
Okay, you
fix
can
that
pinpoint,
problem.
yeah.
You can use research-based instruction, you know, here.
I was gonna say, this kind of reminds me of what we were doing earlier.
I mean, if you want,
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
if you want to.
But really though, that is really applicable here, because
Are you serious?
to check for, understanding, you do kind of have to do some research and figure out, okay, what aren't they learning, why aren't they learning it, how can I help them to master this subject, so when the big test comes, they, they'll do the best that they can. So, one example I liked here that was in the article that I read, kind of like a metaphor for lesson mastery is, okay, so it said, when a home is built, the contractor receives a set of blueprints from the architect. The blueprints specify that to the degree of competence that will be acceptable. The inspector periodically checks in on the construction, always looks at the blueprints first, and then checks on workmanship to see if the work has been performed to the degree of competence specified. So if you're having, or then it says teaching is no different to teach for mastery or competence. An effective teacher must do those three things. So pretty much, if you have a rubric or you're teaching a lesson, and you already have like some goal in mind, having a rubric like we, had earlier makes it so much easier to test specifically, do the students understand? So I think that that's like a great way to incorporate those three things, is to have a rubric for, every, especially writing and reading, to make sure specifically what exactly are you looking for, to check to see if those students master it or what level they're at and who you need to pick out to, give extra attention to or differentiate the way you've been teaching. Alright, so then I have, how much time do I have left? 3 minutes? Alright, so let's see. Alright, so I was going to play a YouTube video, but I said I'll just ask. Okay, so what are some ways, like specifically, you think, like some little assessment ideas, really quickly, like formative assessments that you can do throughout your lessons to check to see if, are my students getting it, or
Body language,
body language, or
visual expressions.
maybe more like, I don't know, like the things you had, those little, what were they exactly, like you give a student question, they write down kind of, what is it, like a little reading paragraph and then a question,
Yeah.
Explain what this means, so you're understanding, okay, are they comprehending what they're reading, or are they just restating it, or,
Are they just writing?
Reading
or
words,
writing
yeah.
to write?
so something like that, what do you think would be a good way to check for, let's say, I don't know, reading comprehension?
Well, it doesn't need to be written. It can be a one-on-one oral, maybe just like 1 or 2 questions. Like if you are wanting to, I don't know, maybe talk about genres. That's something that you would specifically address, because that's that's one thing you want to know. Or can they, I don't know, can they address elements of a story? Do they know what characters are? Do they know what
The
setting
antagonist or
is?
the
Do they know?
protagonist?
Yeah, they like antagonist, that's probably like
That's
older,
like, yeah.
older grades, but I think depending on what specifically you want, I think you can get as specific in your formative
Yeah.
assessment.
Like that's a good one, like, let's say if you're picking apart a story, to understand that they know exactly like the parts of a story, you can say, okay, give me the beginning, the middle, the end, what's the problem in the story, how do they fix it, who's, in the older levels you can do who's the antagonist, who's the protagonist. In younger grades, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, why. So they really pick apart, dissect the story or analyzing it without really even knowing that that's what they're doing. And then you can really see, okay, they understand, who the good guy is. Okay, so 4 students. So we're gonna do, so it was gonna have, do a little project. Yeah, I was gonna do a project and have you guys pick one of the 3: lesson mastery, class management, or positive expectations, and then choose, whether you wanna draw a poster or do a skit or whatever, to explain that you understand or why they're important. But we don't have time, we have 15 seconds, so can't do that. So let's see, which one of these do I wanna do? Okay, so which...
She was over prepared. Remember this? Remember this? It was in the lesson.
So,
We were over prepared. That's all.
yeah,
that
that's a good
matters.
thing. So, I know, I thought I wouldn't, I was like...
You
really
think you
scared I
won't take
wasn't-
up all the
yeah.
time, and then all of a sudden,
Um,
I was
so we'll just do, to kind of go along with what you wrote at the beginning, do you think that these 3 are the only important things in effective teaching, or how do you relate these to what you said at the beginning of your lesson? Does that make sense?
Well, I
Are
think
there more than 3
using
things?
research-based instruction. I think it can help in everything. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that if, with teachers helping teachers, I mean, not to say that, there are other researches that are not accurate, but that I appreciate it because teachers want to help other teachers.
Yeah.
So for example, because of my data and my research, if Jack wanted to try and do it with his students, I would say, here you go, this is what I tried.
Yeah.
It may not work for you, it may work
Yeah.
for him, but we're sharing, we're helping each other,
Yeah.
So I mean, it can help, and maybe he needs help in his classroom management, and then Eric needs help with
Everything.
lesson,
Life.
I mean,
Yeah.
coming up with lesson plans.
And I'm assuming teachers,
So, it
it's not
would
one of
be-
those, it's not one of those things where people are like, no, don't copy off of me, this is,
Yeah.
teaching's one of those things where it's like,
I
no,
have
no,
it
it's
from
not
Kelsey
easy.
too.
If you find keys to locks, you share them.
Yeah, because some things are no, this is my cool thing, I just want to do it. It's you want to share it with other people.
Well, that just
so-
makes the whole school better. the
Yeah,
whole
never be afraid to ask. And I think, creativity goes along with lesson mastery too, because you have to get pretty creative in order to, and differentiate. You have to differentiate and be, creative in order to make sure that your kids are understanding what you're talking about. So,
Thank you. Good job.